In just the first half of 2026, attackers poisoned trusted packages, compromised developer ecosystems, targeted AI tools and models.
We are consuming many digital products, right? Our lives depending on this.
In reality, our AI ecosystem consists of many various parts, the tools and agents and prompts and memory. Most risky part of this is the scale at what everything is being deployed.
Many things can be contained in the SBOM, in the software bill of materials, but the concept of the AI BOM is not so far away because
AI, we've seen so many supply chain attacks this year alone.
The question starts not with the tool, which tool we use. The question starts with the use case, information, transparency about the components that are being used and loaded in the runtime.
By the end, you'll know exactly how to generate your first AI bill of materials this week. AI supply chain is introducing an attack surface at a scale we've never seen before. In just the first half of 2026, attackers poisoned trusted packages, compromised developer ecosystems, targeted AI tools and models, and turned the software supply chain into one of the fastest paths into enterprise environments. Today, we are getting into AI supply chain risk with the two people who basically wrote the playbook on software and AI supply chain transparency. By the end, you'll know exactly how to generate your first AI bill of materials this week and what to do with it. We're also going to dive into what it takes for you to stand up and operationalize your AI supply chain program. But first, if you're new here, welcome to Security Mondays. I'm Eva Benn. Every Monday morning, I bring you some of the best global security leaders with practical AI security guidance you can turn into action this week. If that sounds good to you, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button because I do not want you to miss out on all the amazing guests that we have coming for you. Today, I have Helen Oakley and Dmitry Raidman here with me. Together, they lead the AI BOM Tiger team at CISA, helping drive one of the industry's most important efforts to bring transparency, accountability, and security to AI systems. Together, they also co-lead the OWASP AI BOM Initiative. Helen leads software and AI security at SAP, and it's one of the driving forces behind the industry's AI BOM movement. She created the first open source AI BOM generator for Hugging Face models. She now co-leads the OWASP AI BOM Initiative with Dmitry and leads multiple AI security efforts within OWASP. In addition to that, recognized amongst Canada's top 20 women in cybersecurity, Helen is helping shape the frameworks, the tools, and standards organizations use to secure and scale AI responsibly. Dmitry is a CTO and co-founder of Cybeats, where he leads the innovation in software supply chain security through SBOM, VEX, and software transparency technology. With more than 20 years of experience in various cybersecurity domains, Dmitry has helped turn software transparency from an emerging concept into practical enterprise capabilities for the vulnerability management, regulatory readiness, and software supply chain risk reduction. He was among the early contributors to SBOM movement through NTIA and continues to advance the field through his work with the CISA AI BOM Tiger team and the OWASP AI BOM Initiative. Welcome, Dmitry and Helen. So excited to dive right in. For someone who has never heard what is software bill of materials or AI bill of materials, could you please explain to us to anchor the conversation? Dmitry, I'd love to hear from you.
Of course, Eva. And if we're thinking about software bill of materials, there's nothing new here. We're familiar with this concept from food ingredients. As example, if you're looking at this delicious chocolate chips cookies, we can see that at the bottom it says ingredients, right? And under the ingredients it says may contain nuts and shellfish. So it's important for us to know what we are consuming as a food. We care about allergies and sensitivities to food. We care about expiration date of food, right? No one wants to buy expired products and consume them. We also care about healthy choices, right? Some people like organic food and other different preferences. And of course, we also care about the food safety. We have seen that many times in the industry. When there is E. coli outbreak, they somehow know how to trace the specific lettuce to the farm, and then from the farm to all of the stores that they deliver this lettuce to them. And it's very important because this is how we save lives. So if you're thinking about software, the idea is very similar, right? But from some reason, we haven't done that for many, many years. And it's all started in 2014 by some Congress hearing. I will not go to the historical details, but overall, there was a group of people that was established in 2018 under the NTIA, and Alan Friedman was leading that group and this work. And we start thinking about how we can apply the same concept for software, right? And you can see here this awesome app. We can see, as example, what is the product name, what's the product version or release. We can see also what's the ingredients and components, right? We can see OpenSSL there, we can see Lodash, React, and also we can see the open source licenses. But below, we also can see that it may contain malware and exploitable vulnerabilities, which are really bad for our digital infrastructure today. So as you can see, many things can be contained in the SBOM, in the software bill of materials, but the concept of the AI BOM is not so far away because we are adopting AI at probably highest technological adoption rate by humanity of anything out there, right? I mean, if you're think 5 years ago, there was no AI, there was no ChatGPT, there was no Anthropic, Claude, and any other solutions. But today you can see actually that we are consuming many digital products, right? Our lives depending on these digital products, our electricity supply to our houses dependent on that, our water supply, water treatment, and of course many other things like transportation, aviation, and what's not. So if you're thinking about it, we're consuming digital products. Now you can see this analogy of a house here, right? And really SBOM, that's how we used to call it back in the time since this working group in 2018. But over the years, what we understood is it's really a PBOM. It's a product bill of materials, right? Now, as a product bill of materials, it might be built of multiple different BOMs, right? SBOM, of course, is one of the ingredients that represents the software, but there also might be the hardware bill of materials, right? What kind of processors we have, what kind of communication chipsets we have on our specific product or device, whether it's a home cellular router or it's a surveillance camera. Of course, also we care a lot about cryptography, right? We care about encryption. There is many discussions today about post-quantum resistance, post-quantum safety, but overall, cryptography is also part of the game, right? Because we don't want our data to be exposed publicly or someone being able to access it. And eventually, we also introducing a lot of AI into the digital products we consume, whether it's a software that's running on our computer, whether it's a system solution web service that we're using, like our Gmail, right, and our emails, or as example, it's an edge AI. Might be also AI in our dishwasher that actually analyzing if the dishes are clean, or in our fridge that analyzing, hey, what should we buy, when we should buy more milk, and maybe making this order also for us. So we can see that AI is getting everywhere. So what the point here is that it's not just the AI BOM, it's the whole ecosystem of this product, and AI BOM is just one building block out of it. And if we look at the next slide, we can see actually the AI in the context of the SBOM, CBOM, HBOM, right? It's a very complex operation to track. And the thing is that the easy part is to create the BOMs, right? Whether it's the SBOM, the AI BOM, the HBOM, or any other BOM. But the real challenge is to manage and operationalize it, right? Because once we have the SBOM or the BOM, what do we do with it right now? How do we use this data? How do we consume this data? And how we operationalize it in order to extract the values and the benefits in it.
So what I wanted to add on top of that, if we think about AI BOM and SBOM difference, so AI BOM is really like an extension of SBOM. So SBOM can consolidate many different aspects, and it focuses on components in the software. And AI, we think about the models, of course, the coverage, what is the model that we're using, the details about the model. But we actually have to think beyond that, because in reality, our AI ecosystem consists of many various parts. It not only the models, but also the tools and agents and prompts and memory and skills, right? Everything that is part of the whole ecosystem. And this is where it comes that we need to think about the more comprehensive PBOM, like product BOM, right? That consists the whole all layers of what we have in the system.
This was absolutely amazing. I had never heard the term product bomb. I love it. It's actually, few people know this, but one of the first jobs that I had in cybersecurity was actually supply chain security. And I remember at the time, back in 2014, we were just transitioning from evaluating supply chain from just looking at the vendor layer, because that was supply chain, looking at the vendor. We started actually, transitioning into looking at the application layer. And then through the years, I think we just kept zooming in and in and in. And that's how we now are at this granular bill of materials where we track software, every single bit of it. I have to say, AI, we've seen so many supply chain attacks this year alone with massive impact. So my question to you is, why is supply chain risk bigger than traditional supply chain risk, or is it? Because that's what it seems to me.
To me, the bigger risk, well, first of all, AI significantly expanded the attack surface. Now we have not only the traditional component open source and CI/CD pipelines, but also all the non-deterministic aspects of our systems. And the most risky part of this is the scale at what everything is being deployed and expanded, and how many systems now we have. Think about shadow AI, right, in supply chain. So it's not only what your perhaps employees are using within your organization as a shadow AI, but also what you purchase and it becomes a shadow AI, because you might have assessed as part of your supply chain the software that has traditional functionality, but then with the next update, you get some AI features, capabilities. Wow, this is exciting. But what does it mean to your organization? What does it mean to your supply chain, your data? What happens? Yeah. What does it mean for delegation authority of that? It means like what makes decisions around the systems now for you, for your business workflow?
Yeah, no, I think that to summarize, it's the speed of adoption from what Dimitri was saying earlier is unprecedented. And what you mentioned now is the traditional threat landscape has just evolved. We have new attack surfaces while the traditional ones don't go away. So let's get practical. If I am a team who actually wants to evaluate my AI build materials. I know both of you are authors of the open source AI BOM playbook posted in OWASP, and you're also big industry contributors in that area in many other ways. So where do I get started? What do I do?
The first step starts really with the decision and understanding the use case that you're trying to address. The criticality, what your next steps are going to be, and the prioritization of steps will depend on, first of all, if it's only experimentation right now, but also the purpose of that. Are you trying to address any critical system or high risk system use cases, meaning finance system, critical infrastructure, healthcare, and so on? In that case, you need to really start putting attention from the very start and start understanding the AI components that you're bringing into the organization. Of course, if it's not yet productive, we may take a look. We may still have some leeway of analyzing this down the road as we're experimenting and learning about the output from the model. But regarding that risk, we need to understand the use case. And then from there, we can go into the workflow of generating AI BOM or requesting AI BOM from the vendor and then moving further. But the question starts not with the tool, which tool we use. The question starts with the use case.
When we come to AI-based systems, it's really incomparable to the traditional software that we get used to, right, for the last 20 years. And the problem there is that things are not deterministic, right? They're not deterministic, they're completely dynamic. Things are changing, permissions, guardrails, access. AI today can generate its own tools and execute them in real time, right? So it can create something that didn't exist and basically run it. And when it's doing it, right, it's doing it based on the weights in the model. And this weights, they can be poisoned either by the data sets that the model was trained on, or by other means that affecting. And it's very interesting because we never were facing such thing. But the first step, as Helen said, is, hey, we need to do something about that. So what would companies do? Usually they will identify where they use AI, right? They also would define clear policies of where AI is allowed to be used and what kind of information you can apply AI on. And eventually, once we identify that, we know where we need to dig in order to get the details. And that's where we're coming to.
Okay, this is awesome. So let's just say I have like a model that I pulled up, Hugging Face, and I want to evaluate the AI build materials. Maybe can we just like have a walkthrough? I really want to see how does this work in practice?
Absolutely. So I'll try to share my screen. It all starts with our little project here. It's an open source project. That's the AI BOM generator under the Gen AI security project. If you will scroll down, first of all, you can get the source code and you can run it as a command line. You can run it as a server that has UI, right? And all it requires really is to provide the link to the Hugging Face URL of the model, and the generator will do all the rest. For people who don't want to run anything on their computer, we always have a server running and exposing this capability. So if I will open this in a new tab right here, we can actually see the page of the AI BOM generator. Now we would go here to our Hugging Face, right? And we can always navigate to the model area. We can search for the specific model that we are using, or we can just select one from the models that are on the top and recently updated. I will take the URL here and I'll go back to our AI BOM generator. You paste it here and you click this button to generate the AI BOM. It usually takes a few seconds and then we get all the information, right? So the AI BOM is ready for us. It gives us some summary. It does completeness assessment. We can download the AI BOM. So I will download it in CycloneDX 1.6, right? There is a human-friendly view that you can observe and kind of look at what kind of parameters and details we're capturing, and also a metadata. Now, there are a few tabs here. So there is a field checklist that will show you what kind of fields we capturing and where they are originating from. Some of the fields are originating from CycloneDX. Some of the fields, they don't exist currently in CycloneDX. So we have our own taxonomy that we created that published under the CycloneDX website of taxonomies. But overall, it can show you what kind of fields we would look for. And you can see the checkboxes identifying the fields that we were able to capture because they are part of the model card of this specific model. Now, there is also the score report. The score is not great, but it's a fair score for an SBOM, and it shows us also the breakdown of this score and calculation. And of course, in the JSON view, that's kind of the part where we can actually see all the details of this model, right? So we can see here the type, it's a machine learning model, the group, the name, the version. Something very important to know about the version is that there is no version in AI like we would have in software, right? Usually we're following things like Semver for software, but in AI models, there is no such thing. So we are tying into the commit hashes in order to create the version identifiers. This way we always can go back and understand, okay, we have this model and this is the specific commit hash of the specific model that we are using. Of course, there is a licenses, right? The open source licenses. There is the model card with all the parameters that we were able to capture for the model card, like information about the data sets, right? So in this case, the model card on Hugging Face also has information about the dependencies, same as we have in software dependencies for on open source, like OpenSSL. We have also dependencies on data sets when it comes to model. That's how we're training them. There is considerations, there is properties. That's kind of the taxonomy. As you can see, anywhere you will see Gen AI BOM model card, right? That's a parameter that actually was not defined in CycloneDX, so we had to basically declare it and use it. And overall, it also captures information about the manufacturer of this model, of the supplier of this model, other properties, and of course, external reference to any papers that were published about this model. So this is our SBOM. That's how simple it is to generate it. But now we have that foundational thing of the AI BOM model, but it never AI BOM model by itself, right? It always comes as part of a bigger picture. That's our SBOM, right? That will contain this component.
I wanted to elaborate a little bit on the score before we move on. So what it really means, right? So the score just basically tells about the completeness of documentation of this model, right? And because there are a lot of inconsistency across model documentation, we can see what kind of metadata we can extract from that and show in our systems. So in other words, let's say, what is the difference between low score and high score? So is there a risk? I would say that with the lower score, you have just more unknowns, right? So it means that you probably need to investigate more manually what is that missing in the documentation of this model, maybe because it's not extensively shown at this point. For example, training data sets not always consistently linked to the models, and sometimes it's not easy to identify what has been used, or maybe it's been chosen not to share that information, right? And then you have some kind of unknown. And for your risk, for your organization, you need to decide what is your risk appetite, like how much unknowns you can take into your system.
And that probably depends on your use cases that you identified earlier. You're probably going to be more risk averse for some, and you're going to be a higher appetite for some others, especially when you're experimenting. So I have so many questions. This is absolutely amazing. The first question is very tactical. Can I just use this unlimited? So I just come to this website, and is there a limit of models that I can evaluate, or it's unlimited?
There is no limit at all, and you can either use it on this website, or you can go to a repository and download all the source code and run it locally on your machine, or even integrate it in your CI/CD pipeline for automation.
Love it. Love that one. And that, especially when we're thinking about deployment at scale for organizations. Wow. The other question that I had, if you can just bring us a little bit closer to what's happening under the hood. When I put this in, where are you pulling? Like, I know that you were showing us kind of where the data is coming from, but how does this work? And how do I know that this is current information? So like, if I run this, if I'm a security leader and say I have a high score, why should I feel confident this is where I'm getting into?
Well, the high score is the completeness of the SBOM, right? I mean, when we coming to this topic of SBOM and AI BOMs, it's all about completeness. So if you're looking at the fields that potentially we can capture, right? That's the field checklist. You can see many other fields like domain, like standard compliance, autonomy type, right? Energy consumption, which is a very interesting topic, and others. They not always exist as part of this model card, right? So what you see here, right? That's the model card that we actually analyzing and trying to parse and tie into different values here. And the thing is that if we will look at this specific model of Gemma and we look at the other model, we will see completely different picture, different format, different standard. One has like a videos, one has images, and what's not, right? But there's also like predefined fields like we can see here, right at the top, like the license and others that are accessible by API. So that's definitely the ones that are very simple to collect and capture. So some fields are easy to extract, some fields are harder, and some fields are not so possible.
There is something I want to add to that. So if you are at an organization and you're trying to request for, let's say, your vendor for an AI BOM or SBOM with AI BOM, things that I would focus on is the minimum elements of SBOM first, the NTIA minimum elements, and the second, recently released by G7, the minimum elements of AI BOM. So recommendation, what kind of information should exist in AI BOM for you to work through the risk and work through unknowns.
Say the model has a very complete AI BOM. We have a lot of information. How do I know if the integrity of these components are questionable? Like, is there an easy way for me to figure that out just by looking at it?
So unfortunately, there is no easy way, right, when it comes to understanding, okay, what are the actual risks? There are some way that can help you to figure this out. And usually you would use some commercial tools and commercial solutions to analyze this type of risks, right? Actually looking through the data sets themselves and understanding if there is potentially something that might be risky there and identifying that. There are some basic capabilities, right, that can be captured and provided by the Hugging Face themselves, but they're quite basic. They don't provide you like really in-depth analysis of the models themselves. But the interesting part is that many vulnerabilities are not coming from the models themselves, but I would say the surrounding ecosystem of the models, right? Like transformers and other components, which are more, yes, they are AI, BOM components, but there are software components, there are software libraries that kind of surrounding the AI in order to help us to facilitate the inference, the jobs, and the execution of data through the model.
So far, we are identifying our use cases. We are evaluating our model. We want to make sure we have our NTIA SBOM. These are baselines, but I see a gap and maybe I'm missing it here. So the AI BOM helps me evaluate the model. The software build materials SBOM helps me evaluate a traditional software. But what about some of these new attack surfaces, such as potentially when we think about skills, like the different, I guess, materials from the surrounding ecosystems that are unique, for AI? How should I be thinking about those? And how can I evaluate them?
The skills you need as well the inventory. So it starts with all the ecosystem around AI starts with inventory. So make sure that you have registered all the skills that you use and also verify the integrity of the skills. AI BOM or SBOM in general should eventually collect all this metadata to create the snapshots and runtime information transparency about the components that are being used and loaded in the runtime.
What are some of the other new emerging supply chain risks around AI that we aren't thinking about, in addition to obviously the model and skills, maybe connecting to other AI systems or MCP servers? What are some of the other things that you're thinking about that we may not be thinking about yet?
Now we will take an AI BOM that we generated from Hugging Face and we're going to merge it into bigger product BOM. We will call it SBOM, and then we will import it and we can see what kind of things we are capable of seeing once we get this information and we get some other type of systems that can enrich with this SBOM or AI BOM with threat intelligence, vulnerability data, and other risk data. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch and I'm going to take this file that I downloaded before. So this is our SBOM that we generated, right? What I'm interested in this specific SBOM is just this AI BOM component, right? So it starts from here and it would be ending somewhere here. I'm going to go into my other SBOM, right? So this SBOM that is representing AI application. And then I'm going to scroll down to my components. Here they are. So I can see here multiple components. I'm using here just a text editor for now. Nothing too advanced, right? It's a text editor that I'm using. And I'm going to add here specifically additional section of the AI BOM into my already existing product bill of materials. Now I will go to such tool that's capable to ingest and import such as BOM, and I'm going to drop the file here and I'm going to upload it. Now it will go through very quick analysis. It will identify our components, right? So it already identified that, hey, we have 3 machine learning models, right, as part of this AI BOM, but we also have 1 application and we have 1 package from Python and we have library and a framework, right? So I'm uploading an application, that's my AI application, and my version would be 1.5. So I'll click on import and let's see what happens now.
So just while this is loading, can I just use any supply chain AI BOM management tool for this? Or can you talk a little bit about this tool? How do I know which tool I need to use for this?
So this specific tool is a tool that my company builds and maintains as a commercial solution. It's called SBOM Studio. However, many other tools, some of them are open source, like Dependency Track Project, and many other great companies build this type of tools. They're capable of doing similar things, right? So it's not, one unique, nothing is unique here. What's nice about the AIBOMs and SBOMs is, if you think about it, it's kind of the universal infrastructure machine readable format. So it's almost like universal standard API that you can use. Any tool can consume it, any tool can understand what's inside this SBOMs, right? So if I will open now this AI application, what we will see is that, oh, now we have this specific version. If we will open it further, we can now see all of these components, right, which are combined. So we have three different models. And if you remember, this is the one that we generated with the AI BOM tool, right? So there is a lot of information, useful information that was captured, like the license and references and versions and names. But overall, again, as I mentioned, it's never the models themselves. The models coming with the other different types of components, as example, like the transformer components, right? So if you look at the transformer component, we of course can see also how it looks like, all the details about the solver component, but what's interesting is really the vulnerabilities. So if we will look at recent ones, right, we can see there are recent vulnerabilities which are high, right? They have some exploitation signals and what's not, and of course they're falling into the top 10 OWASP and top 25 from MITRE, right? Also, we're getting information immediately, right? How to fix it, right? So we know how to remediate, which versions of these specific components are fixing these vulnerabilities. So this is the type of information we capable of getting from AI BOMs and SBOMs.
This is absolutely incredible. So I want to elevate the conversation just a little bit. If I'm a security leader, right, that I want to stand up a supply chain program or maybe mature my program to expand and look at AI bill of materials. From a programmatic perspective, what are the foundational things I need to have to operationalize something like this in my organization? Like what are, when you think of resources, when you think of software, the 3 or 4 main blocks that would help me operationalize this?
Well, first of all, you need to understand owners of the process, different parts of the process in the whole life cycle of supply chain. If you're talking about software vendor process, we're talking about software development, the build systems, and then production, right? If you're talking about other businesses who consume software and just need to manage the risks, then they have this more of a procurement and patching process with the vendor who provides the software. So the main aspect that you need to think of is understand the process, define owners of this process, which systems and categories are affected, and then identify how you're going to implement it. So, for example, if you software vendor, you would probably generate your own SBOMs for your software, plus you're going to collect SBOMs from the third party as part of supply chain, and you will need a system like SBOM management system that will provide you with governance and transparency and threat intelligence and etc. If you are provider and you are just consuming the software, if you're provider or some business, let's say, then you will need to think about the systems that will manage for you this SBOMs, but also your process with procurement, how you collect this SBOMs, what are you expecting from your vendors to have this SBOM. So think about consumers and providers of SBOMs that have to be part of the picture.
Absolutely. Wow, that's so great. So I do think that you want to make sure you have somebody that owns it, that you nailed it there, and also understand all the different dependencies and the providers and consumers of the whole bill of materials. Super useful. I am absolutely so grateful to have you here on the show today. So, Helen, the executive order around AI and cybersecurity just came out last month. And while it doesn't mention AI BOM specifically, I believe that there's more here that we should be paying attention to. Could you please elaborate what are some of the things that impact AI BOM but are not specifically mentioned?
So while it doesn't call out the AI BOM specifically, it really has, you have to read between the lines that particular order. So in general, this executive order for promoting AI is a lot around treating AI as a cyber defense infrastructure, right? And support our critical systems and private businesses with defensive AI. It's about vulnerability management and remediation, and they also rolling out this clearinghouse process around that for collective exchange among vendors about vulnerabilities. But very important that they have action for agencies that will also be propagated across private sector to a certain degree, the procurement process. So we need to think, how are we accepting risk? How do we assess the risk of our vendors, and what do we accept or what do we need to follow up on? And that means that you need to have understanding of underlying components of what those systems are. So without transparency, without that evidence, it's nearly impossible or extremely difficult to do, especially at the scale and speed that we have today with our technology evolving. So While it doesn't call out SBOM, it really has this process demand that we need to be on top of understanding how and where what is impacted by different vulnerabilities or weaknesses in infrastructure, in AI infrastructure in overall. And without SBOM, AI BOM, and operationalization of those, we will not be able to respond to that.
When it comes to the executive order, as many other regulations and requirements in this space, and of course frameworks, there is always either explicit reference to bombs, SBOMs, AI bombs, and others, or there is implicit reference. And when it comes to implicit references, if we look at the order itself and we kind of read, as Helen mentioned, between the lines, and I'm going to share it on the screen. So what we can find here as example, right? If we read the section 2, right, part D, so it requiring within 30 days, right, it requiring that basically CISA, director of CISA, right, shall from an AI cybersecurity clearinghouse in voluntary collaboration with the AI industry operation of infrastructure coordinates the conflict scanning for software vulnerabilities, discovers and validates such vulnerabilities and coordinates and prioritize remediation and distribution of vulnerability patches. How are we going to do that without SBOMs?
That is a mic drop moment.
Yeah, I think there is something that also interesting in 3A as well, related to the critical infrastructure requirements and what's not. So it is implicitly pointing towards the AI bombs and SBOMs to be available.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I'm so happy we kind of touched upon this. So while it's not mentioned explicitly, there's so much around AI bill of materials there that we should be paying attention to and getting ready for. So I always like to wrap it up with something practical. From each of you, what is one thing that you would leave security leaders listening to this, some action that they should absolutely do this week?
I would say do not wait until your colleagues and employees will find their own way to get their hands on the AI systems. Add the approved AI systems to policies, distribute these policies, make sure everyone aware of it, perform the trainings, and of course, buy subscriptions of AI to increase the productivity of your staff. That's probably would be one of my advices.
I love it. I love it. And, just do something. Just do one of these. If there's one thing you do, just do something. Don't just wait. Don't get paralyzed from all of these different guidance and frameworks that are coming out. As long as we make incremental progress every single day, we all win. Thank you, Helen and Dimitri. This has been an absolute pleasure. I learned so much. We are going to link all of the resources in the show notes. If this was helpful, please do me a huge favor, give us a thumbs up, and make sure you're subscribed for more episodes like this. I'll see you next time.